I can't believe it's actually happening. Paul George is officially a Philadelphia 76er. The news broke last night at about 3:30 in the morning. I was doing a baseball game yesterday for 3 hours. I did also 5 hours of streaming NBA free agency. I finally had enough. I finally did not think it was going to happen, and I reached my breaking point. I was like, I'm just going to have to go to bed and then just see what happens the next day. And, well, what do you know? Paul George is coming to Philadelphia, and the Sixers are so back, baby. Let's go. What is going on, everybody? Hopefully you're all doing well and having yourselves a very fantastic day. We have a lot to break down today, not just about Paul George, but what the Sixers also did in free agency late last night. But before we get into everything, make sure that you guys hit the thumbs up button, hit that subscribe button, turn on those notification bell icons, and that way you'll know when we go live for Sixers, Eagles, and Phillies breaking news and play-by-plays as well. And with that being said, let's talk about PG. All right, so first of all, I just saw this. This just came out about 11 minutes ago. The time of this recording, it's 12:54 p.m. Eastern Time. So at 12:43, we just got reports that Derek White has agreed to a 4-year, $125.9 million extension. This should just say $126 million. It's pretty close. But that's another big signing for the Boston Celtics. Derek White, obviously one of their big key players. He's a great role player for them. It's worth it, man. He's a really good player. And it really just irks me because they have Al Horford and they just have all these other guys that are just really good, pesty players. And I've always wanted that for so long. But Derek White obviously just got extended, so just saw that breaking news. But now we'll get into the Paul George stuff. And by the way, we had this happen as well. Tobias Harris is going back to the Pistons. 2 years, $52 million. Bro, they just signed Cade Cunningham to like a 4-year a 5-year, $225 million contract. Like, they have no clue what they're doing. They just got in JB Bickerstaff as their new head coach. And Monty Williams was honestly a really good head coach for them. They're just in shambles, bro. I find it funny that they're bringing back Tobias Harris, and he's going to be getting about $26 million per year. So it's just really funny to me. I just had to point that out there. Bye-bye, Toby. So Paul George agreed on a 4-year, $212 million contract extension, and he's now joining the Philadelphia 76ers. It doesn't really surprise anybody. We knew that Daryl Morey was going to go after the big fish in the pond, and honestly, that was the only option we truly had. So the fact that he got Paul George honestly just made sense when you really think about it. I wasn't really a big fan of going after Paul George at first, but now I understand that it was really our only option that we had. We had to go get somebody that could play alongside with Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid. And oh, by the way, speaking of Tyrese Maxey, I figured it was going to happen right after the Paul George news came out. But Tyrese Maxey did get extended. I figured that was also going to be coming secondary after Paul George was signed. It's a 5-year, $204 million contract with Tyrese Maxey. Good for the kid, man. He absolutely deserves it, for sure. He's a great player, and I'm just happy that he's going to be in the Sixers uniform for quite some time. He brings such joy to the game, and he's just a pleasure to watch. And the Wells Fargo Center next year is absolutely going to be banking, and it's going to be fun to watch these three guys play together. Does this mean that the Sixers are title favorites? No. It puts them back, though, in the mix. It does. It puts them in the mix with the Knicks and with the Celtics as the top 3 teams in the Eastern Conference. It just does. I like having a third option like Paul George, because no more Tobias Harris, no more goose eggs in the fourth quarter, guys. A guy that was 0 for 2 from the field in Game 6 of last year, and he played 41 minutes. We're not getting that anymore. We're done with him, and let's bring on Paul George. He's a way better third option than Tobias Harris. That's just the truth, and that's how it goes. And this guy also scores a lot of points in the fourth quarter. So I do think that that would be something that's really nice for the Sixers. He's a good catch and shoot guy with Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid. And look, I'm willing to take my chances on it, bro. At this point, Joel needs a chip. And the only realistic option that they had was to go get Paul George. I didn't want him for such a long time. I was on the Paul George, like I really just did not want him. I didn't. But I finally came to accept about 2 days ago that he's the only option, man. He just is. So good for the 76ers for getting Paul George. And also good for them for bringing back Kelly Oubre Jr. as well. They got him on a very nice team-friendly contract for 2 years. They got Andre Drummond on a 2-year, $10 million contract with a player option as well. Great moves, man, by Daryl. And then you bring Eric Gordon in on a veteran minimum. I'm okay with it. I don't really like going after like all these old guys, and I want young athletic basketball players. But this tells me that they're not going to bring back Buddy Hield, and Eric Gordon is a pretty good 3-point shooter when he's wide open, and I think that he'll definitely thrive in a role coming off the bench for the Sixers. So far, so good for Daryl Morey. He's been doing a really good job. He's been cooking, man. He really has. He's been cooking so far, and I love it. I really like it. I'm waiting to see what else happens in regards to free agency, in regards to another big move. But so far, Daryl's doing his job. Want to give a special shout out to Keith Smith, who is a contributor for Spot Rack, which is a website that's out there that does a really good job at breaking down the salary cap for every single team and describes like how much flexibility teams have to spend on their players and all that type of stuff, and they break everything down. So Keith Smith said, quote, first-year salary with the 76ers for Paul George will be $49.2 million. So Andre Drummond's deal will likely come out with $4.8 million in 2024-2025, which is the upcoming season. And Oubre's deal looks like it'll be the room exception, which will happen after cap space is used, and that's the same with Eric Gordon's minimum signing and re-signing Tyrese Maxey. So with all that being said, right, Andre Drummond, $5 million per year, 2 years, so it's a $10 million deal. Eric Gordon's on a $2 million veteran minimum, and Tyrese Maxey, his extension. So that should leave the 76ers with $9.2 million in cap space to work with. And to me, this tells me that Daryl has to be creative here. And I'm curious to see how they're going to utilize the $9.2 million. Now, they also could make a trade happen because they do have some assets as well. So they could get a little bit funky if they really wanted to and possibly go after a guy like Lauri Markkanen. It is possible. They could do something like that. I'm curious, though, to see how he decides to utilize this money and where he decides to attack. I'm hoping that he tries to go after wings because that's really important to me. I would love to have some flexibility on the wings as well. They could also trade Paul Reed. Now, Paul Reed is technically still with the Sixers. He's not fully signed, but they could use him as a trading piece as well. So that's also something that they could explore too. And that gets rid of about $7.6 million if I'm not being mistaken. All right, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments down below. So Daryl has still some things to do in order for me to be fully satisfied. But so far, so good for Daryl Morey and the Philadelphia 76ers. The thing about Paul George that I actually do like when it comes to the Philadelphia 76ers and their needs is that He can pull up, but he can also catch and shoot. And he's going to give you a lot more than Tobias Harris did as a third option. Seriously. He can drive it into the lane, just like right there. He's also not a bad three-point shooter as well. He's a pretty good three-point shooter, as I just mentioned. But overall, I do think that he gives the Sixers some more flexibility. And if Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid are getting double-teamed, this guy's a third option now. And he can just hit some big-time shots. He can. Can he do it consistently, though, is the question. And I think that the Sixers did what they had to do and get the best option that's out there. It hurts me to say it, but that is the truth. So he does make the 76ers better. And I'm looking at a team where they played against the Knicks last year. If they did have a guy like Paul George as their third option, they beat the Knicks last year. And this year, even if they get a fully healthy Joel Embiid, along with a healthy Paul George and a Tyrese Maxey, that's scary. That's pretty good. That can compete with almost anybody in the league. But how did they utilize the $9.2 million or the $9.2 million? That's the question, and I'm curious to see how that goes. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comments section on the Paul George move. Do you guys think that Daryl Morey so far has done a pretty good job? Do you guys like the Paul George signing? What concerns you about the Paul George signing, if anything? Let me know down below in the comments section, and I will catch you all on the next one.